Hey you guys, welcome back to Connor Reads. This is part 2 of A Path of Daggers. There's going to be a ton of spoilers, so if you haven't read the book, pause the video, go read it, and come back. Let's hop into it. Now this book, much similarly to the last one, has a ton of different perspectives, which is great. When we get stuck in one perspective for too long, sometimes it doesn't bore me, but I just wonder what everyone else is doing. But in this section, the second section of Path of Daggers, we've hopped around and it's been awesome. Super entertaining, super engaging. The first perspective that we pick up is with Perrin, and Perrin actually picks up Morgaze, but she's in disguise. So it's a bit of an interesting dynamic. So she's keeping herself on the D-low, and what she's done is she's essentially put herself into Fael's service, which is a really weird position for a queen to be in. However, I know, you know, Morgaze knows, and I think Linny knows as well, that Morgaze actually relinquished her queen-nancy, her majestyness. I can't think of the word, but you know what I'm saying. She relinquished the crown and she passed it on to Elaine. And what that means is that she is no longer the queen. But the only people who know that are me, you, her, and Linny. So I think it's such an interesting dynamic because what could happen is technically, I think on paper, theoretically, she could really pull rank with the people that they're with. So we have some Aes Sedai, we have some Asherman, we have the Queen of Gildan, we have Perrin, and obviously Perrin is Tavaran, so that's probably not going to happen, but you know, on paper she could pull rank. So I'm really interested to see when she decides to do the big reveal. And I had an idea because I was just thinking about it, and obviously we're going to have some interactions with the Whitecloaks. Obviously we're going to have some interactions with the Prophet, etc. as well. And the only time I could think would be like really impactful for Morgaze to come out and be like, hey, it is I, the Queen, would be maybe if we meet Galad again, because Galad is with the Whitecloaks, and that would be an opportune moment because obviously she's his mum. So I do predict that Morgaze does come out and, you know, reveals herself, and I'm really hoping it's to good effect. However, if there's one character who won't change what they're doing just because their mum's on the other side, it's probably Galad. You know, we know that he's quite black and white when it comes down to what he thinks is good or what he thinks is bad, and you know, who can get in the way of that. So yeah, it's set up to be really interesting. Somebody who I think is going to be crucial is, I believe his name is Balwer. He was like the head of the spies for Pedro Nile, and then was expelled because the people who killed Pedro Nile didn't know that he was the head of the spies. So all that information left, and it's already starting to prove useful. Like he's starting to whisper in Perrin's ear and tell him, you know, this and that, and it all is correct because he has such an extensive network of spies. So I think that he'll continue being an MVP, and if there's any way to get the Whitecloaks on board, which I don't think there is, but if there's any way, he will be the person to let us know. Maybe there's some kind of custom or some kind of, you know, extenuating circumstances where if this happens, XYZ, then the Whitecloaks will follow this person. And a combination of Balwer having the information and Perrin being Tavaran, you never know. Maybe it's the Whitecloaks that come on board, but I seriously doubt it. So the Prophet is running absolutely wild, and the camp is split 50-50 on what they want to do about him. And when I say 50-50, I don't mean 50-50 at all. I mean Perrin wants to spare him and everyone else wants to kill him immediately. And I'll be honest, I have to actually side with everyone else. And the reason for that is because we don't really have a great relationship with Masema. I think he was in the second book maybe, and we knew him briefly. But we had 1 or 2 chapters, or maybe even 1 or 2 paragraphs about him since. And he just seems to be completely utilizing everybody's fear and faith in the Dragon Reborn for his own means. And I'm interested to see what he's all about. I did have a thought that maybe it's not Masema, maybe it is someone completely different who is now posing as Masema, maybe one of the Forsaken who have decided, wow, this person has so much influence, if I become the Prophet, then I will be able to wield a ton of influence. Because, you know, why not? They've managed to infiltrate every other faction, so that would be a really interesting twist. I just feel like we're definitely going to get a twist with this storyline because he and the Dragonsworn and the Prophet have been just everywhere, and they've been an undercurrent for so long in this story that I feel like there has to be some kind of twist. It can't be straightforward, and a big twist would be the Whitecloaks coming on board and, you know, us having to fight the Prophet's forces. That would be very ironic, so I wouldn't put it past Robert Jordan to throw that one out there. we get the return of one of my favorite side characters, which is Elyas. And Elyas is obviously the person who has similar abilities to Perrin, and he was the person who really helped Perrin through that really difficult time when he first started to get those abilities when it comes to the wolves. Now, we haven't had a ton of things that have happened with Elyas yet, but one really interesting thing happened. So Perrin is really talking to Elyas about him previously being a warder and no longer being a warder and what the consequences were. And there was one line that really caught my interest. So Perrin says to Elyas, how could you run into Rena? The connection would tell you where she is. And that jogged a memory in Perrin and then was quickly forgotten. So I don't know what that could refer to, and I've been thinking about it and I don't know, it's quite vague. However, having managed to guess a couple of small things that were foreshadowed in a really similar way, I do think that's going to be really significant. Maybe we learned something about probably just the connection, like we learned something more about that magic and how it can be used, and Robert Jordan's just sowing some seeds for later, because I know that magic wasn't around when the Forsaken were around in the last age, in the Age of Legends, when they were all, you know, locked up with the Dark One, because that was specifically mentioned previously. So it is some kind of newer magic, and maybe there's more to be explored with that. Then we go over to Sevanna. I have to say, Padan Fain has been the person I love to hate so far through this series, but Sevanna is a really close second, and the reason why is because she has so much chaos in her chapters. So whatever she's doing, it's always, everything is on the line, like it's life or death. She's throwing her all at it, and there's so much chaos in her storyline right now, and there's a few extra characters that have been thrown in. So when we join her, she's actually torturing one of the Seanchan, and that Seanchan tells Sevanna that there's hundreds of thousands of Seanchan coming, which is, you know, kind of scary. Hopefully they're overestimating. They also have Galina. She's the captured Aes Sedai. Obviously she is of the Black Aja, but was also the head of the Red Aja, and we get a little bit from her perspective as well. And there is somebody called, I think it's Thoreva is how it's pronounced, Thorava potentially, and she is kind of wrestling control from Sevanna. And Savannah's big issue is obviously she can't channel, which is frustrating. They have their own version of the oath rod with them as well, and Galina just took oaths to not only Sevanna but Thoreva as well. And just based on how everything was set up, I think that Thoreva is really going to wrestle control from Sevanna and push home her advantage of being able to channel. But I think that Sevanna is going to get Galina to maybe kill or maim or steal Thoreva. I just think Savannah's such a winner. Like, she's such a winner in the sense of she'll do whatever it takes to win. I don't like her on like a human level, but as a character, I love her just because anything is possible. The same as Padan Fain. When they come into a situation, a scenario, it doesn't matter that they're not that powerful. Just their grit and determination to cause problems to the storyline is admirable. And while we're on that train of thought, I thought maybe it would be a massive twist if one of the Forsaken had actually taken control of the Seanchan. Now, maybe not directly, but maybe they are in like an influencing role in the Seanchan, because we don't really know anything about them. All we know is that they have like a royal family. We know that they're pretty inherently evil based on what we've seen so far. They have some crazy beasts and they want to take over the world. And the only other people that I know who are like that are the Forsaken. So it would be really interesting for them to come across and it to turn out one of the Forsaken has been playing the long game and has actually rustled up the Seanchan to come across the world. And then we learn a bit more about Shadar Haran. We learn that he is the mouthpiece of the Dark One, which is really interesting. I don't know how that works. You know, I suppose more information pending before I can make any judgments on that. And then we have Moridin. Now, Moridin has Morgidian and another woman who is really strong and able to channel, and they visit another Forsaken. And Moridin is doing something which is, you know, scary but interesting. Now, these chapters with the Forsaken, there's so much chaos in these chapters that I love to read them as well. Like, our main hero storylines, let's be honest, they do progress quite slowly. But when I know it's a Forsaken's chapter or perspective, it's going to happen fast. Like, things are happening immediately. We're not going to get chapter after chapter of their perspective. So it's so fun to read. And what Moridin's doing is, I don't want to say uniting because they all hate each other, but he's bringing together the Forsaken and he's essentially forcing them. He's like welding them together against their will. And this could be good and it could be bad. Now, we've not really seen any of the Forsaken properly working together because they wouldn't unless one has leverage over the other. but it'll be really interesting to see how long that lasts for. One person I know is going to cause problems is Morgidian. Morgidian has been a slave essentially for like 3 books now, it feels like. So when eventually she sees her opportunity, I think she is going to cause so many problems for everybody. I think she's just going to be so full of anger and hate that she might even just explode and kill everyone around her. So I am interested to see how that all pans out. I do think the unification of the Forsaken is really scary, because all of them actually working together would be tough, but they're never going to actually work together. What they're going to do is betray each other one by one at the crucial moment, and that works to our advantage. So yeah, I'm all for them uniting and then it all falling apart. Finally, we have a scene with Sorilea and Cadsuane, and essentially it's like the 2 matriarchs of the story. Now these 2 are easily the most influential 2 women when it comes down to like one-on-one conversations, knowledge, and leading people that we've seen so far. And what happens is Sorilea gives Cadsuane the gift of knowing how to travel, which is a great gift because I don't think she was able to use it herself. And also they agree that their goals align currently. Their goals are parallel. They swear a water oath to each other. And what they're going to do is make Randall Thor laugh and cry again, so to feel his emotions. And I think maybe that will tie into what Cadsuane has to teach him and the Asherman. Maybe there's some history that they need to know so they can lighten up and, be a bit nicer. Because the Asherman, I get it. Like, I know why they don't like the Aes Sedai, but the Asherman just seem angry. Like, all of them are angry, and they're being trained by Mazrim Taim, who's like maybe the angriest guy in the book. So yeah, I think predicting, does that oath last? I know they took an oath to each other, but I don't think so. I think Sorilea and Cadsuane, they're both winners, and what I mean by that is they'll do anything to win. So are their goals going to always be perfectly parallel? No, I don't think so. So hopefully we see a face-off between those 2 at some point. I would have to bet on Cadsuane just because she's more of a main character. We've had more chapters from her perspective, but also she's just more talented, like vastly more talented. But if it came down to just a battle of wills, it'd probably be Sorilea. But I am feeling more and more like we are going to get big betrayals from inside of our camps soon. Like, I still don't know who killed Asmodine. I keep on thinking about it and I can't figure it out. It has to be one of the wise ones. Like, it has to be, right? I don't know. Obviously, don't spoil it for me, but yeah, I don't know. Who killed Asmodine? I'm not sure. It's like, who shot Roger Rabbit? Do you know what I mean? So that's everything so far. I know I've been a little bit slow with uploading videos, and I'm going to be a little bit better with that, but I really appreciate you hopping on. Please like and subscribe, come with me on the journey, and I look forward to speaking to you about part 3. Have a good day.